Alright, so we're back here on WrestleRant. Today we're breaking down the 1996 WWE SummerSlam pay-per-view as seen on the WWE Network, which wasn't great on the whole, kind of a decent show, but definitely a vast improvement over SummerSlam 95. The review already up here on the channel from yesterday. We're kicking off this show, Owen Hart versus Savio Vega. Nothing really on the line, just kind of a standard singles match. Good for what it was, didn't really care much about it because like I said, there was nothing at stake, nothing on the line, not a championship match at all, but for what it was though, fine outing, and like I mentioned in past reviews, Owen Hart is great in everything he does. You know, he was a great wrestler, a great character that I was stunned they didn't do more with in his final few years of his life before he passed away in 1999. But still a nice little opening to the show, even though it didn't mean much. A good win for Owen Hart, and that was about it. Up next, a Fatal 4-Way Elimination match for the WWF Tag Team titles, and a very fun match for what it was. I mean, I didn't really feel any real connection between, I didn't really have any real incentive to cheer for any team over the other. You had the Smoking Guns, the Body Donnas, the New Rockers, and the Godwins. The New Rockers were interesting. They were very short-lived. I thought that was pretty interesting. I hadn't seen much of them, if any at all, of the New Rockers. Marty Jannetty and Leif Cassidy, who of course was later known as Al Snow in ECW, WWF, whatever. But that was kind of funny to say, especially like clean-shaven and all. But a fun little match. It could have gotten some more time at only 12 minutes for a Fatal 4-Way Elimination Tag Team match. You would think they would have been given some more time to kind of go out there and give more time to each team. They didn't do that though, but for what it was, a fun little match. The Smoking Guns emerged victorious and successfully retained their WWF Tag Team titles. So a really good match, probably one of the better tag team matches I've seen at SummerSlam in some time. Because as I mentioned, some of the recent tag team title matches that have taken place at SummerSlam throughout the 90s weren't really that good. They weren't really all that memorable. This wasn't fantastic by any stretch, but for what it was, though, it was fun. It was enjoyable, and did not see a title change, but the Smoking Guns were probably the right team of everyone that was involved to come out victorious and successfully retain to be WWF Tag Team Champions. Up next, we had Psycho Sid taking on the British Bulldog. Again, a good little match for what it was, nothing great. The British Bulldog, after being in attendance for SummerSlam the year prior, I think he was in the crowd for SummerSlam 94. I don't think he was at 95, but he was on this show. He lost to Psycho Sid. Psycho Sid coming back, Sid Justice coming back to the company as Psycho Sid. Again, nothing really on the line here, just more of a grudge match than anything else. They only got about 5-6 minutes, so they weren't able to really go out there. I mean, Psycho Sid wasn't the greatest in-ring worker to begin with, and I think British Bulldog, who in my opinion was very underrated, got that good match out of him. I mean, it wasn't really anything too fantastic, too memorable, kind of like the previous two matches, but for what it was, though, for the time they were given, it was well wrestled. Psycho Sid coming out victorious in this one. Don't know if I would have gone with that same exact result. Like I said, I was more of a fan of the Bulldog than I was of Sid. Not that Sid was terrible, but he was definitely not WWF Championship material. And granted, he never won the gold, or he was. Actually, I take that back. He was a former WWF champion. But it's mind-boggling to me that someone like him would get a run with the WWF Championship when you have guys like British Bulldog who never even were able to contend for that championship, to my knowledge anyway. It's still, for what it was, a good match. Just could have been, I feel like they could have done more with Bulldog during his time with the company. Up next, Goldust taking on Mero, who had debuted that year in the WWF. Sable in the corner of Mero, and Marlena in the corner of Goldust. A very fun match, if only for the involvement of Sable and Marlena. I mean, it was a good match regardless, but you kind of I'm not usually an advocate of interference in any match from 96 to 2015. I'm not an advocate of interference, but in this case, I think it worked. It's not like they ran down and they made their presence felt at ringside. I mean, they made their presence felt at ringside, but they were there the entire time. They didn't get involved too much, but they did play a factor in the finish that saw Goldust go over. But it was a really good match, though. I mean, this was before Sable started overshadowing Mero. This was, like I said, the same year they ended up getting together in storyline on TV. This was only a few months into their on-air relationship. Marlena and Goldust had been together for a while. But it was a nice little clash of the two tandems, so to speak, the two couples of Sable and Mero, and then Goldust and Marlena. I wouldn't be surprised if this led to or was stemming off of a intergender tag team match. I mean, you don't need a rocket scientist to tell you that. You don't need me to tell you that. But still, it was a fun little match for what it was, and kind of furthered the feud, gave Goldust a good heel win and cheating in victory, with using underhanded tactics to pick up the victory with the help of Marlena at ringside as well. So probably my favorite match. I mean, oddly enough, I think probably my favorite match up to this point. The tag team title match was good too, but I thought this was held more of a meaning than any other match on the show up to this point. So also on the show, we had a brief in-ring segment with Sonny and Farooq, of course, later known as Ron Simmons. Farooq, this is at the time he was still wearing the dumb getup and whatever. Originally on this show, we were supposed to get Ahmed Johnson versus Farooq for the Intercontinental Championship, but due to Farooq suffering an injury, he had to drop the championship, and there was no IC title match on the show. I think Farooq mentioned something about a tournament, so maybe they held a tournament, or in the process of holding a tournament to crown a new Intercontinental Champion, but it was weird too. I mean, at least they had him on the show, they featured him, but probably would have been better had they, had had the tournament wrap up at this show, or done something with the Intercontinental Championship on the show instead of waiting until a little bit later on. But at least we got a little segment from him explaining why he deserved to be the Intercontinental Champion. Up next, we had Jerry Lawler versus Jake Roberts. I mean, it really wasn't more so about the match than it was about Mark Henry at ringside. I don't think this was his debut. He had yet to wrestle his first match in the WWF. I know they mentioned that on commentary. But Mark Henry came out. He joined the commentary team. And out comes Jerry Lawler. He calls out Jake Roberts. They had a kind of a short-lived feud going on. The match lasted 4 or 5 minutes. I mean, I would like to see a match with Jake Roberts go longer, but the guy was in no shape to compete at this point in time. He was, very much out of shape compared to when he was, to compare it to the shape he was in years ago. This is the same year when he was in the King of the Ring tournament with Stone Cold Steve Austin and whatever else. But anyway, though, I mean, the match was only 4 or 5 minutes long. I mean, like I said, I would have liked to see it go longer, but I'm not really surprised. Jake Roberts, I don't know if he was capable of putting on a match that went longer at 4 or 5 minutes at this point in his career. Maybe I'm wrong, but still at that point, it didn't feel like it was missing much considering the shape and the stage and the career that Jake Roberts was in at this point in his life. But still, the match was basically designed to get over Jerry Lawler as a heel, as a massive heel, get heel heat on him, which he did. Taking shots at Jake Roberts, being an alcoholic and whatever. He took out some wine bottle, whatever, and was about to smash it over the head of Jake Roberts. He poured some alcohol on him and was about to smash the bottle over Jake Roberts' head. When out comes Mark, he was already at the commentary team, but he was already at the commentary table. He comes over, stops Jerry Lawler, and that kind of set up his first WWF match against Lawler shortly thereafter. So I'm surprised they didn't have Mark Henry make his in-ring debut on this show. But they probably wanted to wrap up the mini feud between Lawler and Roberts first. So for what this was, I thought it was effective and successful in getting over Mark Henry, putting heat on Jerry Lawler, and Roberts, they could have done more with him, but like I said before, he was probably in no shape at this point and at this stage of his career to be doing, longer matches and to be involved in anything really notable. Up next, in a Boiler Room Brawl, we had The Undertaker taking on Mankind. Now, truth be told, I didn't really have high expectations, high hopes for this matchup, considering, like I said, it's a Boiler Room Brawl. The first of its kind, I believe, up to this point. And early on in the match, it was kind of boring. They were backstage. Of course, the rules of a Boiler Room Brawl is that you start off in the Boiler Room, and then you have to work your way out to the ring. And I believe the victor of this match had to gain possession of the urn that was in Paul Bearer's hands in the ring. So starting off the match, they were in the Boiler Room Brawl, obviously, but it was kind of boring. I think they cut out the commentary for a good portion of it, if not all of it, or at least when they were in the Boiler Room. And then the camera cut out a few times, which is pretty funny. Then you hear the crowd, just a chorus of boos from the audience after they can't see what's going on. So that was pretty funny. But it did get better as it went along. Like I said, I wasn't really high on the idea of the matchup when it first started out. But once you get used to it, they worked very well together. I think Undertaker, you don't need me to tell you that, but Mankind and Undertaker had very, very good matches together. Not only the Hell in a Cell match from King of the Ring 1998, but this match as well, and all the matches they had over the course of 1996. I thought this was great. I really enjoyed this for what it was. It was something unique. They made the most of the stipulation. Mankind took a hell of a number of bumps. One from the ladder. He was up against the ladder. He was on a ladder up against the wall. The Taker flipped it over. He fell into some tub or something like that in the Boiler Room. That was the crazy spot. Also, when they came out to the ring, they were on the ring apron, and they were both holding on to the top rope. Taker shakes the top rope, causing Mankind to fall backwards, and he goes flying backwards, lands in the concrete, skull first. That's got to kill, too. He was no stranger to taking bumps, but just seemed a bit reckless on Mankind's part, as we will later know. But still, it was a very fun match, though. They get in the ring, and Undertaker's about to gain possession of the urn. They're like, Paul Bearer's going to give the urn to Undertaker. and Bear refuses, and then Mankind takes advantage of he capitalizes on the situation. He beats down Undertaker, and then Bear, who shockingly turns on on Undertaker on this show, he and Mankind take turns beating up the Undertaker. So a swerve that no one saw coming. Maybe they were building towards it. I don't know. Like I've said before, I only watch the pay-per-views. I don't watch what goes on going into the shows other than the video packages and whatnot. But yeah, the swerve of the century with Paul Bearer turning on Undertaker, allowing Mankind to pick up the victory. And that was that. So a big swerve in the ongoing angle, the ongoing storyline with Mankind and Undertaker, and a really good match too. So definitely the best Undertaker match I've seen at SummerSlam up to this point. Like I've talked about in past reviews, his matches with Giant Gonzalez, the match with Undertaker, all poop fests. They were all very bad matches, so thankfully this is the one gem of a match that we've had from Undertaker up to this point. So a match that I really liked and one of its kind, one of a kind in the Boiler Room Brawl stipulation. So we get to the main event for the WWF Championship. Shawn Michaels defending against Vader. In a very, very good main event, probably my favorite main event of SummerSlam. I'm trying to think if there was a better one. Not 88, not 89. 89 was, what was 89? Oh, it was Zeus and Savage versus Hogan and Beefcake. 88 was a tag team match. 90 was Warrior and Rude. No, I don't know if I would say it was my favorite because I love 92, so it really is up there though. But I thought this was a fantastic match. Michaels had a very good reign as WWE champion throughout the better half of 1996. I almost said 2006 of 1996. Defending against all comers, including Diesel and Mankind, Vader on this show, and all the others. Psycho Sid at Survivor Series, he would drop the title to later on. But I thought this was a very, very good match. They worked very well together. They had that great dynamic. I mean, Vader, who came into the WWF injured, never really amounted to his full potential in the company. Part of that may have been his attitude. Part of that may have been just the way they booked him. That was kind of most of it. But the guy was a mammoth of a man, and you look at his line of work in WCW. He was capable of doing some amazing things in his matches, and I'm just shocked they didn't do more with him when he was with the WWF throughout the late 1990s. But still, for one of his first big blockbuster matches since arriving in the company, I thought this was great. They did a very good job of telling the story of Shawn Michaels overcoming the odds, the size difference, Shawn Michaels being much smaller compared to the huge stature of Vader. So they told a good story in that sense. And the finish, the last 10 minutes brought back memories for me. I mean, I know it's the other way around for older viewers, but this is the first time I've seen this match, of the WWE Championship match in 1999, also at SummerSlam, 2009, also at SummerSlam between John Cena and Randy Orton. Well, I mean, this was kind of different. Orton got himself counted out. He got himself DQ'd. They made him look like a chicken shit heel and whatever else. It was a very overbooked clusterfuck of a finish to that match. This was a bit different. Vader won the match originally by countout. Jim Cornette says, no, you can't win the title via a countout. Let's restart the match. So they do the match over again, and then in the second version of the match, whatever you want to call it, during the restart, Michaels gets caught by the referee. He gets caught hitting Vader with Jim Cornette's racket, and that causes a disqualification. Vader wins the match via DQ. And once again, Jim Cornette calls for the match to be restarted because Vader did not win the title. Gorilla Monsoon adheres to that, so they restart the match again. I mean, they didn't go too long in that, not the third fall, but the second restart of the match. They didn't go too long, but for what it was, they worked very well together. Michaels was able to hit his big spot, the flying elbow. The people were very much behind him. He was very popular throughout his entire career, but especially when he won that championship back in '96. And in the end, Michaels was victorious in winning the matchup and retaining his WWF Championship. So like I said, a great story told. And one of, if not the best match that Vader ever had in WWF. It's a shame they didn't would do more with him after this point. But still, to be in the main event of SummerSlam and then be in contention for the WWE Championship is no small feat. That was certainly a great match from those two, a great outing from both Vader and Michaels, and definitely the best main event of SummerSlam since SummerSlam 1992, hands down. So I love this match. I thought it was very, very good. One of the better matches, I can remember from 1993, and definitely the best Vader match that I can recall. And one of Michaels' better matches as WWE Champion. He had a lot of great matches that year, especially the In Your House match with Mankind, but this was certainly a highlight as well. So on the whole, I thought this was a decent show, made great by the I mean, again, I wouldn't call it a great show, but certainly the final two matches were very worth watching, very well worth watching. With Mankind versus Undertaker in the Boiler and Brawl, and then in the main event, Shawn Michaels versus Vader for the WWF Championship. Both matches very good, very enjoyable. This show is worth watching for those two matches alone, but it's not even like the undercard was terrible, much like it was in '95. I mean, the show gets a thumbs up for me because it was a vast improvement over the year prior. But it's just that none of the matches really excited me. They were nothing like too fantastic. They were just kind of standard for what they were. A fun little matchup, a fun little tag team title matchup. Owen, Hart, Savio, Vega, Psycho Sid versus Bulldog, then Goldust versus Mero. Were all decent to good, nothing too memorable, but they kind of filled out the undercard well. And then, Lawler and Roberts effectively furthered that feud between Lawler and Roberts, and then Lawler and Henry as well, leading into his in-ring debut. And then, as I mentioned, the final two matches were great, which I thoroughly enjoyed. So, would I recommend you go out of your way to watch this pay-per-view? Not out of your way. There's many other SummerSlams that I would, that were probably better than this one. But it was a good show. I give it a thumbs up, and I would recommend you watch it at some point, if only for those final two matches. So that's going to wrap up my review of SummerSlam 1996. Thank you for your support. Thank you for watching, listening. If you want to support the show, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Find me on Twitter and follow me there at WrestleRant. Find me on Facebook. Give the page an old thumbs up at facebook.com/graham.gsm.matthews. And also make sure to visit the website at nextairwrestling.weebly or nextairwrestling.net. It's .weebly.com. That also works, but the new web address is nextairwrestling.net. For my full written reviews of Raw, SmackDown, Main Event Superstars, TNA Impact Wrestling, NXT, Lucha Underground, Ring of Honor, and everything else in between. A lot of content up on the website, so make sure to check that out right now. And also, hopefully going to try to do a live review of Battleground next Sunday, if I'm around for it. I might be working that night. I have no idea as of right now, but stay tuned for more on that on Twitter, Facebook, as they mentioned on the website as well. But I will be back on Tuesday, Q&A, hashtag AskGSM video on Monday, tomorrow. But on Tuesday, we'll be back with my full review of SummerSlam 1997, also as seen on the WWE Network. So in the meantime and in between time, guys, have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll catch you guys on Tuesday.